This video is not for whales and dolphins. It's for you, because you are just like me. Average Duck Gamer here, and today I want to talk about the idea of Zenless Zone Zero getting reruns in patch 1.4. So we're going to lay down some supporting theories, and then we'll try to refute them, and ultimately it's up to you to make up your own mind until we get confirmation one way or the other, which I imagine will probably be halfway through Lighter's banner when they do the intro to the new characters Haramasa and Miyabi. So until then, it's up in the air as to whether or not we get reruns in 1.4, not unlike where Yanagi likes to hang out. Man, what's she doing out there? So starting with supporting points first, and the big first one is that Genshin and Honkai Star Rail started reruns in 1.4 with their first run characters. So Genshin got Venti and Honkai Star Rail got Seal reruns in 1.4. So if Hoyo wants to follow the same pattern as those games, then we are likely to see reruns in Zenless Zone Zero starting in 1.4. And why wouldn't they want to follow that pattern? Both Genshin and Honkai Star Rail are hugely successful games, so why mess with the formula there? Just stick to what has worked and it'll continue to increase interest in Zenless Zone Zero. Players who started later will be able to pick up characters that they only heard stories about over campfires, and early players who skipped certain characters will be able to pick up the ones that got away, or maybe even consider picking up copies or a weapon for their favorite character. I mean, if you've been playing Ellen since the start of the game and you didn't feel that the Wenjin was worth it at the time, and now you have a great team for supporting her and you clear all of the content with her, then as much as I normally say don't worry about Wenjins or Mindscapes, if that is your favorite character and you're not going to replace them, then you do you, bud. Waifu over meta. You've been saving for a while and you don't know what for, sure, you could continue saving for Miyabi, but if Miyabi doesn't appeal, but sticking with Ellen does, then maybe you'd just be better off going for Ellen's Wenjin. So let's take a leap from here then, and imagine that Ellen is the first character that is going to be our first rerun, following the pattern from the prior games. Now, talking about supporting Ellen, we have a very key figure in Lighter, who'll be releasing in the second half of 1.3. If the reruns start in 1.4, Ellen will be running right next to him, which is kind of in line with a Zenless Zone Zero pattern where characters that work well together tend to be run close together. And it would make a bit more sense why Lighter was run closer to 1.4 if that is when we get an Ellen rerun. If you weren't aware, Lighter buffs fire and ice damage, making him a great stun/support character for attack agents like Ellen and Soldier 11. Maybe Miyabi, we'll see about that one. But yes, running Lighter next to Ellen's potential rerun makes sense to me. Definitely way more so than running him in the middle of Section 6 for no apparent reason. Even Lighter's promo stuff demoed him with Ellen. So let's play out the rest of the rerun here then. So if we get Ellen in the first half of 1.4 alongside Haramasa, then who do we think follows? It makes sense for it to be the other 1.0 unit, which would be KQR, but I could see them not running her and running someone else instead. I think whoever does get run in the second half of 1.4 alongside Miyabi will get absolutely buried. So it probably doesn't matter that much who it is. I think of all the prior characters though, G1 is the most likely candidate, as she was next after Ellen, and she does still have a solid following in the fan base for reasons, but sorry, that was meant to link to the next thing. I got distracted. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, before we move on to the other side and why we may not see reruns of 1.4, here is your reminder that you probably aren't subscribed. Liking and subscribing helps to support small creators like me on YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitch, and if you want to hang out with some cool chill peeps, you can also join the Discord. Links for both in the description below. So why would Hoyo hold back on reruns? Let's get into it. And as we do so, let's lay out the working theory for 1.4, which would be Haramasa with Ellen, then Miyabi alongside maybe G1. Now, just super quick, I could see them flipping Haramasa and Miyabi, even though that's not how the drip marketing was released, and I'll touch on this again in a moment. But this is the current working rerun theory for 1.4. Okay, firstly, reruns haven't been announced yet, and you would think that if they were in fact coming, it wouldn't hurt for them to confirm that they are coming, particularly in the case of Lighter, because there would be a bit more hype around Lighter if we knew for sure that Ellen was coming in 1.4, for example, because then people could guarantee Lighter with what seems to be his best teammate. But on the other side of this, by not announcing, Hoyo do still actually have the opportunity to announce during Lighter's banner. And yeah, this means that his banner will be less hype at the start. If they announce reruns during Lighter's banner when they run the 1.4 preview, there will still be a week or so left of Lighter's banner for future Ellen mains to consider pulling both of them. So I guess this point is really more neutral and less supporting of the idea that reruns are coming. Something that will hurt the theory though is the idea of starting any reruns in 1.4 with all of the hype around Miyabi. So because of the hype around Miyabi, I could see Hoyo making the call to stop the rerun plans in order to let Miyabi's banner do its thing and not bury the rerun characters, particularly Ellen, because although Miyabi is going to be an anomaly character, the fact that she's using some kind of super ice 2 nonsense might cause players to stop and think before pulling an ice attack character. Now, I think they'll be different enough to both have their place, but if it's a question of polychrome allocation for players in general, I can see a lot of players making the decision to skip Ellen in favor of Miyabi. And if Ellen runs in the first half with Haramasa and isn't even running alongside Miyabi, the first Void Hunter, a new element, definitely the strongest playable character we've had in terms of the lore, whoever does run alongside her, sorry Juyuan, will probably only sell to a few Semps and Whales, which then begs the question, would it not be better to start the reruns in 1.5 to let Miyabi's banner breathe and do its thing? And Hoyo has already proven that they are willing to break the pattern for Miyabi. For example, they delayed her drip marketing just to hype her up a bit more and send the Zenless Zone Zero fanbase into a frenzy about where she is. So they understand how important she is, not just from a lore and story perspective, but also to the player base as a whole. And this is something I mentioned earlier, but I could see them flipping Haramasa and Miyabi in terms of order if it feels like it suits them. And if we don't get reruns, I actually think it's more likely that they do this, because then Miyabi will be run next to Lighter, who buffs ice and fire damage. And although they may need a connecting piece like Bernice, it could be one of the strongest teams in the game, provided that Miyabi's core passive allows for it, i.e. she only needs another anomaly character. Then it would make sense to not have any reruns and just let Miyabi's banner do its thing. The reruns could then start on the second half of 1.4 or in 1.5. But I do think that overall this idea is pretty unlikely. Additionally, as much as in Genshin and Honkai Star Rail reruns has started in 1.4, in both of those you require 4 characters per team, but in Zenless Zone Zero you only need 3 characters per team, which kind of raises the value you gain per added character to your account. I guess this would discourage Hoyo from releasing reruns too early, because it would mean that you could build a coherent team faster than having to wait through 3 banners to get a team of limited S ranks. This doesn't really make that much sense though the more you think about it, as just because you have access to 2 characters at once doesn't mean that you'll be able to get them, because you'll be limited by polychrome. So by introducing reruns, it gives more opportunity to whale out and get what you want, maybe both characters on a banner, but it might not necessarily keep you playing for as long, because you can build something coherent faster than having to wait around for the single banners. I guess this point is again kind of neutral, as it has both points for and against. Okay, so we've laid out some reasons for and we've laid out some reasons against the idea of reruns in 1.4, so it's time to make the call. Do we think that we are likely to get reruns in 1.4? I'll give my opinion quickly and then you can let me know in the comments what you guys think. But yeah, I do think we'll get the reruns in 1.4, and I think they'll get announced during the 1.4 live stream that will take place during Lighter's banner. Mostly, I think my reason here is that not doing the reruns as soon as they can is kind of just leaving money on the table. If people want the additional characters in the patch, then they're more likely to spend money because they won't be able to get all of the characters they want. So even if we're really hyped up about Miyabi and Juyuan does not do well running alongside her, for the players that really want Juyuan and only Juyuan, then they still get to pull for her. Plus, having 4 characters per patch as opposed to 2 is definitely a business decision by Hoyoverse, yes, but it gives players more choice for who they want to go for to help make their account the best it can be, as opposed to only having one option at a time with the limited S ranks. We'll have 2 waifus at a time to choose from, and that's good for us as players too. So anyway, what do you guys think? Reruns? Let me know in the comments. If you're interested, another video of mine should pop up now. I'll also mention that this Thursday's stream will be my first ever account review. We're helping someone out who's struggling with the content, so drop me a follow on Twitch or check the times on my Discord if that sounds like fun. As always, remember to like and subscribe for better than average luck on all your pulls, pull responsibly, and stay weird. Bye, 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 bye.